Hello everyone, you are watching Ispreet Academy. We are discussing about human circulatory system part 3. We covered the following topics in part 1 and these topics in part 2 and now we are in part 3. The video links of part 1 and part 2 are given in the description. Those who didn't watch part 1 and part 2 can watch those videos and we can come back to part 3. First, we are going to discuss about blood cells in this part. So, you know very well that blood is a fluid which is circulating inside the blood vessel, and here you can find the blue color and red color lines in the body. These structures are known as blood vessels, and blood is circulating inside the blood vessels continuously, and heart is the pumping organ which circulates the blood inside our body. Human blood is considered to be a connective tissue. This blood is made up of cells, group of cells. They connect different parts of our body. So it is called connective tissue. An average human being has about 5.5 liters of blood in his body, and about 55 to 60% of the blood is a fluid called a plasma, and the remaining 40 to 45% is made up of cellular elements called corpuscles, and these corpuscles are known as RBC, WBC and platelets. Now we will discuss about the components of the blood. The first component is plasma. Plasma is a straw-colored aqueous solution. Plasma contains water about 90%, inorganic salts about 1 to 2%, and organic components about 7 to 8%. Plasma transports food, carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste in dissolved form. So, these materials are transported by the plasma to different parts of our body. Apart from this, they transport hormones which are produced by endocrine glands which are present in our body. And the main function, another important function done by plasma is this plasma, it transports heat to different parts of the body. It helps us to maintain the body temperature in our body. Red blood cell, white blood cell and platelets, these are the different types of blood cells. All these blood cells are together known as corpuscles. Red blood cells are otherwise known as erythrocytes. Here you can find red blood cells, and these are the white blood cells. They are otherwise known as leukocytes. And this small structure is known as platelet. It is otherwise known as thrombocyte. Let us discuss about red blood cells. Red blood cells are formed in bone marrow. Inside the bone, we can find the bone marrow. Here, the red blood cells are formed. And if you see the structure, it is biconcave in shape. You can see a concave structure. There is no nucleus inside RBC. It gives more space for RBC to collect oxygen, and it has a big surface area, and 95% of this red blood cell contain hemoglobin. The lifespan of the red blood cell is 120 days. After 120 days, these old and worn out red blood cells, they are destroyed in spleen and liver. And if we see the function of these RBCs, they can be compared with distributors in real life. What the distributors are doing in real life? Distributors collect goods from the company directly and they supply to all the retailers. The same way, This RBC collects oxygen and food materials, and they supply to each and every cells and tissues of our body. That is the main function of this RBC. White blood cells, they are otherwise known as leukocytes. There are different types of white blood cells. We can find it here: monocytes, lymphocytes, eosinophils, basophil, and neutrophil. Among this, you can find, if you watch the picture closely, you can find a major difference between these cells. The main difference is, here in this cell you can find dot like structures. They are called granules, and here also you can find the granules, and in neutrophil also you can find granules. But if you see these white blood cells, you cannot find granules. So, based on this, they are divided into two major types: granular leukocytes and agranular leukocytes. And granular leukocytes are formed in bone marrow, and agranular leukocytes are formed in lymph nodes. And these cells are larger than red blood cells. And if you see the structure of these white blood cells, they won't have a regular structure. The structure is irregular. They are irregularly shaped. White blood cells are the military force of our body. Our military protect our country from enemies. If any enemy tries to enter inside the country, they will be killed or they will be captured by the military force. Similarly, if any foreign bodies, the bacteria, virus, and these kind of structures, if they enter inside the body, or any unwanted materials enter inside the body, these white blood cells, they will capture those foreign bodies and they will destroy them. That is the main function of these white blood cells. They produce antibodies and they destroy or they will neutralize the toxins produced by the bacteria and other dangerous foreign bodies. If required, they have the ability to leave the capillaries to fight against these kind of infectious organisms. The third type of blood cells are known as platelets, and these platelets are very small in size, very small in size, and platelets also, they do not have nucleus inside, and they are found in bone marrows. And the main function of the platelets, they form temporary plug for wounds. If there is any cut or wound in our body, in any part of our body, immediately these platelets, they form thrombin and fibrin, and these thrombin and fibrin, they help our body to produce a temporary mesh around this particular area. This mesh, it forms a clot, and they will not allow the blood to leak from our body. This way they prevent unnecessary loss of blood from our body. That is the main function of this platelet. Heartbeat. What happens in the heartbeat? The muscles in the heart, they contract and relax. When the upper chamber contracts, the blood from the upper chamber, it will enter inside the lower chamber, that is from auricle to ventricle. When the ventricles contract from this right side, it will enter inside the lungs. The blood from here, it will go to the lungs, and the blood from the left side, it will go to different parts of our body. When we are at rest, the heart muscles utilize 4 to 5% of the cardiac output. When we do some hard work or exercise, the blood flow to the heart, it will increase 6 times up to 8 times also than the normal time. The rhythmic contraction and relaxation of heart is called heartbeat. The rate of heartbeat in man is 80 per minute. So, heart beats once in 0.8 second. It is less than 1 second. In less than 1 second, it completes one complete heartbeat. Each heartbeat has two phases. The first phase is known as systole. It is otherwise known as the contraction phase of the heart. And the second one is known as diastole. It is considered to be the relaxation phase of the heartbeat. Changes that occur in the heart during one heartbeat are repeated in the same order in the next beat. This cyclic repetition is called cardiac cycle. Since the heart rate in man is normally about 70 to 80 per minute, each cycle lasts for 0.8 seconds. First, we will talk about the systole, the contraction phase. There are two stages in systole. First, the auricles they contract simultaneously. Both the right auricle and left auricle they contract and push the blood to the ventricle. This is called auricular systole. It lasts for only 0.1 second. And once the blood enters inside, immediately the ventricles, both right ventricle and left ventricle, they contract together and they force the blood to move out of the heart. This phase is called ventricular systole, and at this phase it lasts for 0.3 second. During this phase, this tricuspid valve it will close. The same way the mitral valve also will close. Since these two valves are closed here, blood cannot enter inside the auricle. Instead, they will be forced inside the pulmonary artery and aorta. And when these two valves close, we hear a sound called lub sound. So, auricular systole it lasts for 0.1 second and ventricular systole lasts for 0.3 second. Both together they take 0.4 second. Now, we will talk about the relaxation phase. Once the contraction is over, this phase, relaxation phase, will continue. The auricles and ventricles relax simultaneously. The duration of diastole is 0.4 second. During this diastole, this semilunar valves they will close, and here we have semilunar valve. These two valves will close. When these valves close, we hear the second sound called dub sound. During this phase, both auricle and ventricle they relax, so the entire heart chambers are filled with blood once again. So this cycle will continue. Now let's discuss about the gas exchange in the lungs. Blood, the deoxygenated blood from the heart enters inside the alveolus. They are the basic unit of lungs actually. So carbon dioxide from the blood will be released inside the alveolus. The hemoglobin will release carbon dioxide and instead it will collect oxygen from alveolus, and once again the blood becomes oxygenated. This oxygenated blood will go back to the heart, and from the heart it will be circulated throughout our body. This is the gaseous exchange that take place in the lungs. Next gaseous exchange will take place between blood and body tissues. So, the oxygenated blood which is pumped by the heart, it goes to different parts of our body. This oxygenated blood will supply oxygen as well as food materials to the cells and tissues present in different parts of our body. From the body tissues, our blood collects carbon dioxide and waste materials, and once again they bring that carbon dioxide back to the heart. From the heart it will go back to the lungs. Once again in the lungs, the deoxygenated blood becomes oxygenated and the cycle continues. Functions of circulatory system. We discussed about the functions of circulatory system simultaneously while discussing about the various components of our blood. So, transport of nutrients, transport of respiratory gases, transport of waste products, transport of body secretions, regulation of body temperature, defense against infection. These are the various functions done by our circulatory system. The next thing is maintenance of pH. The meaning of the word pH is hydrogen ion concentration which is present in the blood, that is called a pH. So, blood helps us to maintain the hydrogen ion concentration in our body, and also it maintains the water balance. It makes sure that the water balance is maintained equally in different parts of our body. And of course, this point we discussed prevention of blood loss. So, this platelets, they help us to prevent the blood loss from our body by forming a blood clot. These are the various functions of a circulatory system. Now, here is a question for you all to think. At an altitude of 4000 meters, the pressure which forces oxygen into the blood is reduced approximately by 33%. A person moves from sea level to live at this altitude for 24 days. The graph below shows the effect of the reduced oxygen availability on the number of red blood cells in the person's blood. Question number 1. Calculate the percentage increase in the number of red blood cells during the 24 days. Suggest how this change in number of red blood cells adapts that person to conditions at 4000 meters. So, look at this graph, it shows the number of days here in the x axis and the number of red blood cells present in the body in the y axis. It is given in millions per millimeter cube. So, in the initial days, when the person is going to the high altitude, he has 4.5 millions of red blood cells per millimeter cube. That is the initial stage, the number of red blood cells present in the initial stage. Now, after 24 days, slowly the number of red blood cells increase, and at the end of 24 days, the number of red blood cells present in the blood is 7.2 millions red blood cells per millimeter cube. So, this is what we need to understand from this graph, and you can think about this answer. So, here is the answer for the first question. So, red blood cells at a sea level 4.5 RBC per millimeter cube, here that is the starting stage, and after 24 days 7.2 RBC. So, here we can find 7.2 RBC per millimeter cube, and the total increase in red blood cells, the difference between these two. So, 2.7 RBC per millimeter cube. So, if we convert this into percentage, so here we have to multiply this by 100. So, 2.7 by 4.5 into 100 is equal to 60 percentage. So, 60 percentage of red blood cells have increased in the blood. And the answer for the second question, an increase in the number of red blood cells in the person enables him to be able to carry more oxygen from his blood to his muscles. So, our body, it adapts to that new challenge. It produces more red blood cells in order to supply more oxygen to different parts of our body. There are different types of cardiovascular diseases. The meaning of this word cardiovascular disease, the diseases that affect mainly our heart. They are considered to be cardiovascular diseases. First one is hypertension. So, too much of tension, high blood pressure inside the blood vessel, it causes hypertension. There are different reasons for this high blood pressure. Our lifestyle and the kind of food items we eat, mainly they play a major role in this particular part. The next one is arteriosclerosis. What happens in this particular issue is our arteries, they become narrow or they become very hard. In that case, they will lose the elasticity. If they are not elastic, then the blood cannot flow freely. In case if the pressure increases, the elastic nature of the arteries will help them to expand, and that way they will reduce the blood pressure inside. The next problem is atherosclerosis. Here what happens, if you see the picture here, you can find this yellow color structure is considered to be the fat deposits. Fats are deposited inside the arteries. In that case, the space inside the artery will get reduced. If the space is reduced, naturally the pressure will increase here. So, this kind of condition is considered to be atherosclerosis. The next one, coronary thrombosis. What happens in coronary thrombosis? A blood clot is formed here inside the artery. If the blood clot is formed here, naturally the blood cannot flow freely inside the blood vessels. It will be blocked here itself in case if there is a block. These are all the arteries. If there is any block in the artery, it may lead to heart attack. The muscles in this area may not get oxygen supply as well as food from the blood. In that case, these muscles, the cells present in this area, they will die. That will lead to heart attack. So, here is a question for discussion. Suggest the ways by which we can prevent the diseases that affect heart. We must remember one thing, heart is working continuously without taking rest. Continuously it is contracting and relaxing. If the heartbeat stops, that will be the end of our life. So, every one of us should protect the heart, and we need to be aware of the diseases that affect the heart and how we can prevent it. So, think about various ways by which we can prevent the diseases that affect heart, and you can mention your suggestions in the description. The links of human circulatory system part 1 and part 2 are given in the description. Those who didn't watch already, you can watch them. Don't forget to subscribe Ispreet Academy to receive the latest updates. Have a great day.